Time Magazine's Person of the Year is here, and it is Greta Thunberg. Well, if they'd gone by what the readers and what people voted on, it would be the Hong Kong protesters, but just a little caveat, it's an opinion piece. Person of the Year is not voted on, it is not a poll, it is not a majority vote or anything, it is just an opinion piece. It's an editorial. They pick whoever they decide they want to be the Person of the Year, and they make them Person of the Year. My thing is, okay, she got here for skipping school. Essentially, she skipped school, she protested outside the parliament, and she was made a figurehead. But she doesn't know how anything works. She doesn't know how any of this actually works. When she's asked the tough questions, she doesn't know anything. She's idealistic, and she's being propped up as a figurehead, and I genuinely feel sorry for her. She's being used, she's being propped up as to fit a narrative. Anyways, let's read this. Then I got another one that is in opposition, saying, well, why didn't they make the Hong Kong protesters a opposition article? Why didn't they make the Hong Kong protesters Person of the Year? Because that's what most of the readers wanted. It was like 96% when I saw it. But let's get into this. Greta Thunberg, the soft-spoken Swedish teenager who became a global conscience for climate change and environmental activism, has been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year for 2019. Again, choice, editorial. Person of the Year is an opinion piece. The magazine announced 16-year-old Thunberg as its choice Wednesday, exclusively on Today. She became the biggest voice on the biggest issue facing the planet this year, coming from essentially nowhere to lead a worldwide movement. Okay, so we have a 16-year-old who doesn't know anything about climate change, really, has some really crazy ideas like zero emissions and things like that that just don't make sense within a time frame given maybe a couple hundred years. Yes, we could, unless we come up with some massive technological advancement that propels us into the future by decades, then that ain't happening. Not anytime soon. And other gaffes that she's made when asked tough questions, she has no idea, and she's the leader of the movement. Okay, she's the figurehead of the movement. That's the honest truth. Also, the editor-in-chief, Felsenthal, told Today that she's the youngest choice ever to be named on Person of the Year, which is, I'm sure, another plus that they were thinking of when they named her Person of the Year. They could tout that she's the youngest. So, Thunberg quickly bloomed into one of the world's most notable and youngest climate change activists, sparking a collective movement to fight climate change after protesting alone outside the Swedish parliament during school hours on Fridays when she was 15. Yeah, she skipped school. She has no idea what she's actually talking about. When you hear her talk about the issues, when you actually get a chance to hear her talk about the issues, I mean, most of the time it's all completely scripted, don't get me wrong. But when you can hear her actually talk candidly, the 2 times that she's talked candidly about what she knows, she doesn't know anything. She knows nothing. She is idealistic. She is dreaming of an altruistic world, and we don't live in an altruistic world. We just don't. The teen held up a now universally recognized hand-painted sign that read, I'm not going to read that because I don't, which translates to "School Strike for the Climate." Sounds to me like she just didn't want to go to school and had a great reason. Thunberg's initiative to strike galvanized students to protest against climate change throughout Europe, and that momentum quickly fanned across the globe, becoming the Fridays for the Future movement. I'm going to switch over to this article here. This is the opposition article here. So, the editors of the Time Magazine, this is from Town Hall, the editors also noted, the Time editors, that Thunberg's words have resulted in new laws intended to protect the environment, such as a new UK law that demands the country eliminate its carbon footprint. You're going to eliminate the carbon footprint, are you? I won't hold my breath. I really, really won't. Battery power is not the answer, because then what happens when the batteries are dead and they go to the landfill? It's worse for the environment. So then what are you going to do? You can't go on battery power. Your electricity creates carbon emissions. You're going to go full nuclear power? That's going to cost you a lot. It's going to take a long time. But critics have noted a few issues with her climate campaign. While it's true she has decided, and here's the other thing. The protesters, people have died. They're being put into concentration camps. And yet they are still protesting. They are still standing strong. How does Greta flipping Thunberg get chosen over the UK protesters when the majority, 96% of Time readers, agree with me and not with Time magazine? What is this narrative, this crazy, why? It's an opinion piece. They're totally entitled to their opinion. I would just like to know why. Laws have come up because of her crazy little things. Okay. In 10 years, tell me how these laws are doing for the UK. But critics have noted a few issues with her climate campaign. While it's true she decided to take a zero-emissions sailboat to this year's climate conference at the United Nations, it wasn't quite as climate-friendly as you'd think. 2 crew members had to fly to New York to bring the boat back, and 2 of the crew members that made the original voyage had to fly back across the Atlantic to return home. Yeah. You can't get away from it. You cannot get away from carbon emissions. If you're watching this video, you cannot get away from carbon emissions, because watching this video, you're creating carbon emissions. If you drive to work, if you buy a hamburger, if you buy a French fry, if you're vegan and you buy food from the vegan restaurant, it doesn't matter. You cannot get away from carbon emissions. The only way you can do that is if you went up to a cabin with an axe, didn't use any modern equipment, cut down your own trees, used mud, water, animal sinew, whatever, to make your little log cabin, your hut, your teepee, whatever you're going to make, and live out there doing nothing. And even then, you're still contributing to environmental demise. You're still not completely environmentally sound. To do that, you would have to make sure you don't pass gas. You don't kill any animals, none, zero, zilch, nothing. You don't kill any plants, none, zero, zilch, nothing. You live out on the land without any clothing, without eating, without farting. Then you've got zero emissions for the all of 3 or 4 days that you survive. Anyways, it's crazy. Zero emissions, what the hell? But it has been revealed that 2 crew will fly to New York to bring the boat back, and it is also expected that skipper Boris Herman and Team Malaysia founder Pierre, whatever, will fly back to Europe. You're going to sail a boat there and tout the boat, and that's your starting point. That's your opening liner so that the news can run with it. They came on a boat. Zero emissions. Cut the story there. Don't look at what's behind the curtain. What's behind the curtain? Carbon emissions. People got to fly there, get the boat, fly back. Another group has got to fly back to Europe. Yeah. It's a flipping mess. It's an absolute flipping mess. Time of the year. Person of the year. Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Well, it is an opinion piece, and they are totally entitled to their opinion. I do agree with the masses that the Hong Kong protesters should have been Time Magazine's Persons of the Year. I thank you for your time. Give me some engagement on this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.